I encountered the haunted boy of the Appalachian Mountains that science can't explain. I never should have opened that door. That thought echoed in my mind like a scream that refused to fade. It pulled me from the safety of my mundane routine into the unknown, and all I had to guide me was a flickering lamp and the whispering wind outside. I was supposed to be preparing for a weekend getaway, but curiosity clawed at me. The hallway was dark, thicker than the night itself. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and turning like something alive. Cold air chilled my bones, wrapping around me like a lingering ghost. The smell of damp earth seeped in through the cracks, heavy and suffocating. I pushed against the door, each creak sending jolts of fear racing through my veins. Then, the whispers began. Soft at first, like gentle rustling, building until they crescendoed into an unsettling chorus of sighs and hissed secrets. I could feel my heart pound in my chest. What was it saying? I couldn't tell. It cut through the silence like a knife, sharp and eerie. My palm was sweaty against the doorknob as I stared into the abyss of the dark room, a pit of dread forming in my stomach. Suddenly, the floor creaked beneath my feet, the sound echoing in the stillness. I froze. Something felt wrong. Objects shifted on the table I could barely see. A book, left open and still, now closed and perfectly positioned like it had been waiting for me. I struggled to breathe, my chest tightening as an icy chill slithered up my spine. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to run, but my feet remained glued in place. A shadow darted across the wall. I blinked, hoping it was just my imagination, but it lingered, coiling and shifting. My throat went dry. I couldn't look away. Silence hung heavy again, an unbearable pause. I wanted to scream, but the air was crushed in my lungs. Then, with a sharp pop, the light flickered out, plunging me into darkness. Panic surged within me. I stumbled back, gasping, and that's when I heard Ida's soft, dragging sound accompanied by slow, deliberate footsteps moving closer. My heart raced wildly. I shut my eyes tight, praying it was all just a nightmare. Something whispered my name, a child's voice, sweet yet sinister. "Help me," it said, and my blood froze. I couldn't speak. I felt an urge to run, but I was rooted in place by unearthly fear. Derek, my mind screamed. Where was Derek? I needed him here. I turned to dart back, and just then, the door slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. The darkness closed in, and a faint glow emerged from a corner. Was I seeing things? No, it was real. The outline of a boy appeared, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light, a face twisted in a haunting expression that sent shivers crawling up my spine. He reached out. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A deafening silence swallowed the space as the boy's figure solidified before me, shimmering like heat on asphalt. My breath caught in my throat, laced with disbelief and dread. He stood just beyond the dim light, the edges of his form distorted, like a photograph torn beyond recognition. His clothes were tattered, a dusty amalgamation of browns and greens, yet somehow they clung to him with an unsettling perfection, as if they were a second skin. "Help me," his voice, though tender, reverberated with an ominous weight. I stood paralyzed, driven by the terror that surged like electricity through my veins. The shadows flickered, and I realized it wasn't only the lamp that was wavering. The darkness around the boy seemed to pulse, as though the night itself were alive, breathing with malice. What are you?" I finally managed to stammer, my voice a pitiful whisper. Part of me wanted to run, yet another part felt drawn to him, trapped in this ghastly tableau. He took a step forward, his luminous eyes boring into mine with an intensity that both intrigued and unnerved me. "Please," he begged, the word wrapping around my consciousness. "I need to be free." In that moment, his breath formed mist, drifting like smoke into the oppressive air. My heart raced. I could almost feel the weight of the darkness pressing in from all sides, an entity that fed off my fear. A flash of movement at the edge of my sight snagged my attention. An object had shifted on the table. It was a small wooden box, intricately carved but smooth with age. Its lid lay slightly ajar, as if in invitation. The boy's gaze diverted to it momentarily, the intensity of his eyes dimming to a soft pleading. In a daze of confusion, I moved toward the box, my curiosity overriding my better judgment. The moment my fingers brushed against the cool, worn surface, a rush of icy air shot through the room, swirling around me like a tempest. The boy recoiled slightly, a flicker of warning dancing across his spectral face. "Don't." He gasped, but it was too late. As I pried the box open, a blinding light exploded forth, illuminating the room with a terrible brilliance. The whispers returned, louder now, thousands of voices weaving together in a cacophony that pierced my mind. I staggered back, dropping the box as it crashed to the ground, releasing a flood of shadows that twisted and writhed around my feet, hungry and insatiable. "What have you done?" The boy shrieked, his once sorrowful face contorted into an expression of raw terror. The shadows lunged forward, rushing toward him, and the flickering luminescence of his eyes dimming with every heartbeat. Desperation clawed at my throat. I can fix it." I cried out, but the words felt hollow against the rising tide of darkness. The shadows materialized into grotesque shapes, faces twisted in anguish, hands reaching out towards me, seeking in their silent plea, "Help me." The boy's voice seeped through the chaos, but now it was different. No longer intimate, it sounded urgent, desperate. The malevolent forces were converging, and I realized with horror that they sought not just him, but me too. The room shook violently, the walls buckling as the shadows pressed in. I made a frantic decision, scrambling to grab the box, hoping to contain whatever nightmarish thing I had unleashed. As soon as my fingers made contact, a searing pain shot through me, igniting every nerve in my body. "Run!" The boy screamed as he was slowly engulfed by the darkness, his light fading like a distant star, each fragment swallowed by the chaos. "You have to leave now," but as I turned to flee, it was too late. The door had vanished. I was ensnared in this realm of sorrow and horror, trapped with the boy. The lingering tears of countless souls echoed in the shadows, waiting for me, calling out in anguish. The pressing void clung tighter and tighter, squeezing out my breath, leaving only the terror that something far worse awaited me in that relentless dark. And then, suddenly, the shadows parted, revealing a ghastly silhouette, a figure I could barely comprehend. It loomed tall, its features indistinct, yet I felt its gaze piercing into my soul. It lurched forward, and I could only watch in horror as it moved toward me, the boy's fading cries echoing in my ears. The figure loomed closer, an amalgamation of despair and fury, its silhouette stretching impossibly tall, casting a long shadow that swallowed the ground beneath me. A suffocating dread pooled in my stomach as the air crackled with an insidious energy, dark fingers of malice slithering past me, darting towards the boy, who now seemed more like a fragment of a memory than a conscious being. "Help me, please," he repeated, voice now thin and tremulous, barely a whisper against the trembling walls that seemed to pulse with unholy life. I glanced around, hoping to find anything that could save us from this unforgiving torment. The carved wooden box lay discarded at my feet, still emanating a low hum of evil. The shadows surged back toward the boy, dragging him deeper into their twisted embrace, and I felt my heart splinter as his shape began to distort under their weight. "No, not like this." I gasped, lunging toward him, but the darkness enveloped him as if he were a candle snuffed out amid a storm. Despair wrapped itself around my heart like a vice, squeezing tighter with every second. I faltered, feeling my sanity fray at the edges, teetering on the brink of sheer madness. Suddenly, the air was thick with a mournful wail, a symphony of lost souls echoing from the depths of the encroaching shadows. The whispering grew louder, a haunting melody of anguish and despair promising unspeakable horror. With a surge of fear propelling me, I snatched the box from the ground, cradling it like a fragile egg, desperately searching its surface for a sign of hope. As I opened it again, the blinding light returned, momentarily drowning the room in brilliance. In that light, I caught a glimpse of something swirling inside, a tiny, radiant sphere, pulsing like a heart caught in torment, caught between two realms. Could this be the key? My mind reeled with questions as I reached in, letting my fingers brush against its warmth, but the moment I touched it, an unbearable scream erupted from the shadows, shaking the very foundation of this cursed place. The figure loomed closer still, its features sharpening into something grotesquely, an amalgamation of pain and loss, eyes glowing like molten coals as it bore down upon me. I felt an overwhelming urge to flee, but my feet remained rooted, the weight of the box dragging me backward, and snaring me deeper within the horror. Give it to me. A voice roared from the depths, cold and hollow. I spun toward the source of the sound, my breath hitching as the darkness writhed at my feet, shifting as though alive. You cannot seal what has been broken. Glimmers of light erupted around the figure as it lunged for me, shadows clawing at my flesh like icy fingers. The boy's cries joined the cacophony, echoing through the dark, his form now a mere flicker amidst the encroaching gloom. I felt a surge of rage mixed with sorrow, a desperate need to save this soul who had become intertwined with my own. Stay back! I shouted, brandishing the box as if it were a weapon. But the shadows only twisted and coiled around me, a living wall that sought to devour all taste of hope. The boy's expression morphed from fear to something like determination, or was it acceptance? You have to fight. It wants you to give in. That gave me pause, the realization striking hard. It wasn't just my life at stake, it sought to exchange me for the boy. Whatever sinister bargain the entity was offering, it wanted my surrender. I glanced back at the fading figure, desperation filling my heart. Could I pull him back from the brink, or was he lost to the darkness forever? Help me! The boy's voice rang out one final time, fractured and raw. A flicker of light ignited within me, a surge of defiance against the dark. Clutching the box tighter, I stepped forward, ready to face the unimaginable horror as the shadows bore down upon me. Suddenly, a crack split the air, sharp and destructive. And in that moment, the shadows recoiled, as though struck by an invisible force. The boy's eyes flared, filled with an intensity that ignited my very soul. Do it! He commanded, and without thinking, I hurled the box toward the figure. Time froze as the box soared through the air, the delicate arc a distant whisper against the raging storm. And as it collided with the darkness, an explosion of light erupted, bathing the room in a blinding brilliance that shattered the silence. But as I shielded my eyes, the shadows twisted, creating a vacuum that pulled at everything, even the boy's very essence, and then, just as suddenly, silence fell once more, wrapped around me like a shroud. I fell to my knees, breathless and trembling, suddenly aware of an eerie stillness that replaced the chaos. It was too quiet. The absence of the boy's voice pierced through me like a dagger, and I dared to surrender to the silence. But as I peered into the void where the boy had been, there a shimmering echo of his presence remained, coiling toward me with a malevolent energy, intertwining with the shadows around me. I blinked, trying to reconcile what I saw, and my heart dropped as chilling laughter erupted from the darkness, haunting and gloating. Welcome to the hunt, it whispered, echoed in familiar tones. You've awakened something far worse, and now it's coming for you. I gasped as the shadows coalesced, wrapping around me once more, their grip tightening with every heartbeat, pulling me deeper into the abyss. Despair flooded my veins as the realization dawned. I had not merely stepped into darkness, I had become its prey. The oppressive silence pressed down like a weight, stifling my thoughts and drowning any flicker of hope that remained. With trembling hands, I searched the room, expecting to find some remnants of the boy, some way to reach the flickering essence that had just moments ago filled this space with life. But the light was gone, extinguished in that blinding flash, and the shadows around me seemed to pulsate with renewed hunger. Welcome to the hunt, the darkness whispered again, a sinister serenade that burrowed into my mind. I could almost feel the air grow cold, the temperature dropping to a bone-chilling frost that sapped all warmth from my body. Shivers cascaded down my spine as I felt eyes upon me, countless, unseen watchers lurking just beyond the periphery of the flickering candlelight that shuddered in the suffocating stillness that I stumbled backward, my heart racing, the contours of the room warping under the weight of a dreadful anticipation. The shadows twisted around me, undulating like a living thing, their whispers merging into a maddening chorus. Each word was tainted with venom, carrying the weight of lost souls who had crossed paths with this insatiable darkness. Then, without warning, the cacophony fell silent, and a single voice emerged, a chilling echo of the boy's gentle entreaties. "Find me," it urged, insistent and desperate. I spun around, searching for any trace of him, but the shadows merely danced, mocking my futile efforts. "You have to follow the path. You must confront it." A flicker of thought ignited like kindling in my mind. I remembered the legends whispered about the Appalachian Mountains, tales that wove in the fabric of local lore that deep within those woods lay a terrible secret, an ancient power cloaked in dread. If the boy had been taken, might he not also hold the key to what had snatched him away? "Find me." The voice urged again, this time accompanied by a fleeting glimpse of the woods cloaked in twilight, trees twisting like dark sentinels reaching toward a blood-red sky. In that moment, clarity swept over the pulse of horror that surrounded me. This was not just a haunting, this was a call to action. I needed to venture into those woods, to unravel the mystery entwined in his disappearance. Before I could second-guess myself, I dashed for the door, yanking it open with fervor. The darkness howled like a wounded beast, eyes flaring in protest. I could sense it gliding behind me, hunting my every step as I bolted through the threshold and into the frigid night air. The moon hung high, pale and cold, casting eerie shadows that danced mockingly upon the ground, reminiscent of the nightmares that now chased me. Running down the narrow path, my breath came in ragged gasps, the crisp air biting at my lungs as the shadows undulated and twisted, warped figures that flickered in and out of my vision. I could feel the boy's voice beckoning me forward, urging me toward the heart of the woods where reality was thin and the veil between our world and the darkness beyond lay ready to be breached. Each step sent jolts of dread through me, the woods an unearthly labyrinth covered in thick underbrush and protruding roots. Further I went, swallowed by the twisting path, illuminated only by the pale glow of the moon above, the trees a congregation of ancient giants whispering secrets long buried. It was there, in the stillness of the forest, that I felt the change. The air grew heavier, the chill sharp and biting, as though I had crossed an unseen boundary. The darkness thickened around me, encroaching with a hostility that set my nerves aflame. I could almost hear it breathing, feeling the darkness hiss with a hunger that resonated like a beast awakened from a long slumber. The boy's voice flared in my mind like a warning light, his presence wrapping around me in a shroud of urgency. "You have to find the clearing before it finds you." But even as I steeled myself against the encroaching dread, a feeling of wrongness settled in my chest. The shadows flickered more urgently now, forming grotesque shapes that writhed as if alive, faces distorting in eternal anguish, mouths twisting into silent screams. It hit me then, I was not alone. I could sense others lingering just at the edge of my perception, beckoned by a new thirst. The darkness had drawn them here as well. Suddenly, a rustling crept from behind me, sending a cold wave of terror through my veins. I spun to see a figure emerging from the tangle of trees, a shapeless mass of shadow, yet somehow distinctly human-like. Its face was a gaping void, devoid of features, and as it lurched forward, I froze, teeth clenched against the bile rising in my throat. "Stop running," it rasped, voice echoing like thunder, resounding through the trees. "You invited the darkness, and now you'll pay the price." Before I could react, the forest reverberated with a sickening laugh, a chorus of cackles spilling from the depths of the shadows, swallowing the serenity of the night, drenching it in a layer of dread that rendered me paralyzed with fear. As I stumbled backwards, the laughter grew louder, shards of distorted faces emerging from the darkness around me, twisting with glee. The world seemed to pulse around me, each heartbeat echoing louder, a warning of the unspeakable horror that had encircled me like a pack of wolves. And then, just as I thought I might scream, the boy's voice cut through the chaos, raw and desperate, "Don't look away." I felt the shadows tighten around me, drawing closer, and in that moment, the realization hit me, there was nowhere to run. As terror filled my heart and the figures surged forth from the darkness, I understood the horrific truth. I was not just a pawn in this game, I had become part of the horror itself. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned toward the heart of the woods, desperation propelling me forward, but the shadows finally broke through the last vestiges of light, swirling around me like a furious storm. And just as I reached the clearing, the world erupted into chaos. The earth trembled beneath my feet, and as the dark figures screamed in unison, I realized I was not just fighting for my life, I was fighting against the very essence of evil that had consumed this place. The trees began to shake, their branches twisting downwards, gnarled hands reaching out to ensnare me as I fell toward the ground. Then, I felt a pull, an unseen force that hurled me back as my vision blurred, obscured by the malicious shadows hungry for my soul. I gasped, trying to pull away, but the weight of the darkness was too strong. And just before the shadows enveloped me completely, a blinding flash of light pierced through, illuminating the forest in an ethereal glow. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of the boy again, his face straining against the clot of darkness, his eyes wide with terror. "Remember, find the heart," he screamed, and then the light faded, dragging me down into the depths of the unknown. That I clung to his words, hope dwindling as everything plunged into inky blackness, paralyzed between light and shadow, caught in a realm where horror knew no bounds. The grip of darkness tightened around me, resolute and unyielding, pulling me further into a chasm of nothingness. Panic clawed at my insides as I felt the absence of solid ground beneath my feet, an endless descent into a void devoid of light or color, only the bitter taste of fear lingering on my tongue. The boy's instruction echoed in my mind, like a ghostly mantra battling the consuming darkness: "Find the heart." With a sudden lurch, I was thrust forward, colliding with an unseen barrier that expelled me violently from the oppressive gloom. I tumbled into a clearing, sprawling across the blackened earth as the cold air rushed back into my lungs like a tide receding. Through the haze of disorientation, I blinked at my surroundings, and horror clawed its way back into my heart. The clearing was bathed in an eerie twilight glow, illuminated not by the moon above but by a pulsating heart, a pulsating mass of darkness thrumming in the center like a grotesque mimicking of life itself. The air vibrated with an unholy energy, a pulsing rhythm resonating deep within my bones, beckoning me closer. Shadows writhed at the edges, swirling as if they had a mind of their own, their whispers rising into a frantic chorus. "Join us, join us, join us!" I scrambled backward, but the ground felt strange beneath me, as if it was alive with memories of horrors past. There were remnants lying scattered across the forest floor, forgotten possessions twisted with vines, their owners lost to the heart that now throbbed before me. A child's broken toy, a rusted locket, pieces of clothing that had long faded, each relic a testament to the darkness that devoured them. "No," I gasped, trying desperately to steady my breath. What had I stumbled into? The reality of it clawed at my sanity. The heart was a prison for the lost, trapped souls tormented by the malevolence that surrounded me. And then I heard the boy's voice, a spectral echo that threaded through the very fabric of the clearing. "You must confront it before it consumes you." This time, his presence was woven into the shadows themselves, an extension of his essence lost to the dark. There was urgency, desperation, heart racing. I approached the pulsating heart with trepidation, each step a battle against the merciless pull of darkness that recoiled and hissed at my proximity. It was a magnetic force that threatened to unravel me, to rip through the seams of my sanity. I could feel the shadows coiling around my ankles, clutching desperately as if aware that I was inches from their crown jewel. "Find the heart," I uttered to myself, steeling my resolve against the dread, though my mind screamed against it. But the boy's presence provided a tether, pulling me through the looming violence the heart emitted. Somehow, I understood I needed to retrieve him. I needed to rescue whatever was left of his spirit, to dismiss the consuming dark that promised to swallow us both. As I drew closer, the whispers intensified, a cacophony of shrieks from lost souls engulfed within the darkness, crying out for release. I could see their faces flashing before my eyes, each one contorted in rage and sorrow, urging me on. Yet, amidst the chaos, a singular figure stood out, an apparition flickering at the periphery of my vision, pale and forlorn. "Help me!" it wailed, its voice suffused with untold anguish. I turned, drawing my focus to the shadowy figure, a girl, drowning in despair, her fingers clawing at the air as if grasping desperately for something just beyond reach. Her face morphed into one of the twisted entities around me, yet her eyes bore a haunting familiarity. The essence of the boy within her, echoing in the pleading glimmer of her gaze. Instinctively, I lunged toward her. "I can save you!" I cried, reaching out, but the shadows lunged, their lifeless forms an avalanche of terror. The moment my fingers brushed against her, the air shimmered suddenly, she merged into the darkness all around me, forming a grotesque visage that laughed with indescribable glee. "Foolish child," the shadows mocked, blending into a form that hovered above me, casting an inky veil over what remained of my resolve. "You think you can save them? You've become part of us now." The pressure intensified, a storm brewing all around me as the heart pulsed in rhythm with the fear that radiated from my core. The shadows stretched out, entwining around my wrists, pulling me toward the pulsating mass that hungered for my essence. The air thickened, so dense I could taste the despair, a heady concoction of dread and lost hope. No. I screamed, wrenching against the tight bonds clasping me, desperately searching for any glimmer of light to pierce the encroaching darkness. But all around me, figures emerged, with pitiful eyes that absorbed my resolve, draining the will to fight. The heart throbbed more violently now, and in that moment, it became apparent the darkness was not merely feeding, it was drawing me straight into its very core. As I felt the heartbeat synchronize with my own, the remaining fragments of my sanity shattered, tumbling into a whirlpool of shadows. "You want the heart?" I screamed into the tempest. "Then take it." And before I could comprehend what I'd done, I lunged toward the heart, desperation fueling my resolve even as the darkness screamed in rage. As my fingertips brushed the pulsating surface, a blinding flash erupted. I was thrust backward again, thrown into a whirlwind of echoes and darkness, engulfed by anguished screams that morphed into a cacophony of laughter clawing at my very essence. And with that, just as I reached the culmination of something irrevocable, reality blinked around me. The resonating laughter drowned out all understanding, and when the chaos dimmed, I lay alone in a vast expanse of nothingness. A single thought burned through: I had awakened something even darker than I could have ever imagined. In that suffocating void, I felt the boy's warmth begin to fade, the very last tether to this world slipping away. A haunting whisper lingered: "Find me before it is too late," and with that dread thudding in my heart, something stirring in the darkness breathed my name, promising to show me the horrors unfathomable. The darkness enveloped me, thick and suffocating, each pulse of the shadowy heart drawing closer, taunting me with its insatiable hunger. I flailed, disoriented in this intangible void, where time and space twisted and warped beyond recognition. Just when the residual warmth of the boy slipped entirely from my grasp, I felt it, an icy tendril curling around my wrist, pulling me deeper into the encroaching black. Reality flickered briefly, bizarre half-formed visions materializing and collapsing like fragile dreams. I remembered fragments of home, of warmth, of laughter, but it was all swallowed by the malevolent pull of the heart, a beacon of darkness consuming every shred of light. Then came the voice, low and haunting, echoing through the emptiness: "Join us forever." I turned, desperate to escape the seductive whispers, but the shadows were everywhere, pressing against me as if alive, each one a fragment of despair, each visage wearing the face of someone I had lost, or perhaps someone I didn't know, but they all felt familiar, binding me tighter to the darkness that sought to devour me whole. A low rumble sounded beneath me, as if the ground itself was growling, and I felt an insistent tugging at the pit of my stomach, guiding me forward. I was compelled to move, against every instinct screaming at me to flee. I stepped into a narrow hallway of shadows, the walls slick and cold, vibrating with energy as if the darkness itself had become sentient, whispering secrets of the damned. In the distance, I spotted a flicker of light, a glimmer buried deep in the dark, and instinctively I surged toward it, my heart pounding in my chest. The shadows recoiled, drawing back, allowing a path. Yet the light itself was strange, inviting, yet shadowy, pulsating as if alive, and with every step closer, a deep terror twisted within me. What awaited beyond that grim illumination? Stepping into the chamber suffocated me with its intensity, a sacrificial altar of sorts, littered with gnawed bones and remnants of offerings, all steeped in thick layers of decay. The heart loomed above me, hanging suspended, drenched in a forbidding glow, casting an ethereal pallor over the sacrificial remnants. I staggered back as faces emerged from the darkness that formed the walls, whispering, reaching, pleading. The light deepened, and I gasped. The boy's figure flickered in the illumination, his eyes wild, his expression a mask of fear. "You must," he began, but a shadow surged forward, ambushing him, wrapping around his form like an executioner's noose, digging into his essence and tearing at his spirit. No. I screamed, lunging toward them, but the darkness surged around me, caressing with icy fingers that sent chills racing down my spine. I realized I was being swept away, pulled back by the heart's magnetic force that mirrored the heartbeat pounding on my chest. "Help me!" The boy's voice echoed, distorted, a frenzied cry submerged under torrents of shadow and fear. Suddenly, I was wrenched from that nightmarish scene, hurled into another plane within the abyss. Before me stood a circle of figures, cloaked in robes stitched from midnight itself, their faces obscured but their dead eyes fixed upon me with malevolence. They began to sway, chanting softly, their voices vibrating in the air around me, weaving through the fabric of despair like an unsettling lullaby. "Offer yourself," one whispered, a melodic intonation seeping with dark promise. "Become one with the heart and be free of this wretched existence." I recoiled, instinctively grasping at the remnants of my humanity. "I want. I can't." I pleaded, voice cracking as shadows sneered, or perhaps smiled, at my defiance. With every pulse of the heart, a surge of anxiety coursed through me, relentless and furious. I glimpsed the boy's hollow face within the shimmering darkness, flickering between dread and hope, and his voice surged back, desperate. "You must find the heart, not join it. Save me." But before I could respond, the shadowy elders surged forward, encircling me in ritualistic choreography. Hands reached out, tugging and pulling, each touch like liquid ice against my skin, trying to siphon my very essence. A wild panic overcame me as whispers turned to screams, the cacophony becoming unbearable until a solitary, piercing scream broke through, shattering my focus. "Find him!" shrieked a familiar voice, a voice I hadn't heard in years. My mother. Her form flashed amidst the swirling chaos, ethereal yet anchored, eyes filled with unwavering love yet colored by terror. "Mom?" I gasped, reaching for her, but she evaporated into thin air, leaving behind only echoing dread. Once again I felt the cold grasp of the shadows tightening around me, pulling, relentlessly teasing me toward the heart beneath me. The ground roared, fissures opening up, spewing forth tormented wails from the chasms of despair. I was losing them both. Then I saw a flicker of hope against the annihilating darkness, a glimmer radiating from a crevice in the ground, vibrating in perfect synchronicity with the heart. It called to me, and the shadows, realizing the gravity of my movement, began to churn violently, their howls morphing into rage. I hesitated only for a moment, a fatal moment that could seal my fate. But I could not abandon her, nor the boy. With defiance burning through every fiber of my being, I lunged toward the inner glow, feeling the shadows scream in agony as I tore through their rancid grip. Without warning, the floor buckled beneath me, and I plummeted into an abyss, the light of hope fading into memory. The last thing I heard was the sound of the maddening heartbeat, louder and louder, blending with the screams of the damned as darkness closed in around me, and just before everything went black, I felt a piercing chill wrap around my soul as a voice whispered in my ear, intimate, familiar, yet laced with malevolence. "You've come home." And suddenly, I was not alone. The cold is unlike any I have known, not merely a temperature but a presence, coursing through the very essence of my being. I awaken not on the empty ground of the abyss but in an expansive cavern that breathes with the weight of darkness. Stalactites descend like grasping fingers, and an echo of water drips rhythmically in the distance. Each drop resonates with a sustained agony, drenching the silence with dread. "Where am I?" I whisper, my voice barely cutting through the empty air, lost before it even reaches the crude walls. I strain to remember the leap into the light, the hope that had gripped my heart. Now nothing but silence envelopes me, an impenetrable shroud that mutes that vibrant echo of that flickering glow. As I struggle to rise, I feel the sharp sting of jagged rocks beneath me, the remnants of prior sacrifices perhaps, and I shudder. Every inch of the chamber feels infused with the sorrow of what had transpired before, lost souls trapped in eternal limbo, their cries stifled within the folds of darkness. But this silence is misleading. It ripples, pulsates beneath the surface. I can feel something watching, lurking in the shadowed crevices, that which does not allow the air to settle, the darkness to rest. I glance around, searching for signs of life, of anything. I reach out tentatively toward the wet stone wall, and as my fingertips brush against its cool surface, the darkness quivers, a tremor that reverberates through my bones. Then, I hear it, a whisper, a shattered, broken sound that seems to bypass my ears and vibrate directly into my mind. "Help us find him," the voice murmurs, a child's voice woven into an unsettling chorus of others. A chill dances on my spine, memory stirring. The boy. Where are you? I call, my heart pounding as shadows elongate, slipping against one another like creeping tendrils. Find him, comes the echo, but now it shifts, mingling with other voices, spirits yearning for release. He hides in the heart. Suddenly, the walls start to shift, shadows swirling into forms I instinctively know are far from friendly. Ethereal figures emerge, transparent and contorted, their faces masking unbearable pain. I stagger back, the sheer weight of 1,000 tortured souls pressing against my mind, and I realize their freedom is treacherous, their cries just an invitation into their own hell. Do not listen. Another voice breaks through the cacophony, sharper, filled with urgency. Leave this place, but my feet remain rooted as the anguish deepens. For every scream, intimacy builds a kinship with their sorrow, a familiarity that claws at my sanity. You mustn't. I plead, choking on desperation, but it only pushes them closer until I can feel the despair invading me. Their pain wraps around me, a pall of hopelessness and regret, and the boy's fading image haunts me, juxtaposed against these wailing forms. No. I gasp, the anguish of the lost becoming unbearable. I turn away from the shadows, desperate to escape, to flee deeper into the cavern. I struggle forward, intent on finding an exit, but with each movement, the air thickens, resisting my advance, the temperature falling further into a bone-chilling abyss. A sudden draft sweeps past, sending a shiver cascading through my spine. I turn, and in that moment, I see it, a flicker at the far end of the cavern, a shape barely visibly, a doorway stitched with threads of violet light, its warmth beckoning me like a siren luring sailors to peril. I can hear distinct laughter mixed with agony, and as I stumble toward it, shadows flare up, snapping and clawing at the edges of my vision. Stay! They howl, their voices echoing with the desperation of something ancient. I reach the door, my fingertips contact the unyielding surface, pulsating as if alive, and suddenly, it bursts open. A tempest of wind rushes through, carrying with it whispers of promise and destruction, and I am thrust forward, compelled past the threshold, falling again, yet this time I am enveloped in a whirlwind of colors, blurs of warmth and anguish, a riot of memories that dash like lightning through my head. Images of the boy, my mother, and the darkness merge yet dissolve, colliding and fracturing before my eyes. I land hard, expelled onto a new plane, still engulfed in shadows, but these shadows dance, they warp into something more animate, more corporeal. You have come back, the voices hiss, oozing from the damp corners of my new prison. The suffocating darkness coils around me, and I can feel it pressing against my thoughts. You are one of us now. No. I scream with every ounce of defiance, whether spoken or thought, but as soon as I do, a figure steps out from the shadows, a silhouette of a child, hair matted and dirt-streaked, eyes hollow yet full of that same chaotic light. It is him, the boy, but now he is not screaming for salvation, he is smiling, a hollow, chilling smile more befitting of anguish than joy. You found me, he says softly, devoid of warmth. But you will never leave this place. With horror clenching my heart, I realize he is no longer pleading for rescue, he is a harbinger of the despair that will ensnare me. In that moment, the shadows swell, creeping closer, and with a final desperate gasp, I hear the unmistakable echo of my mother's voice, layered beneath all the others. Save me, and in a whirlwind of despair, I feel something cold and unfathomable slither across my skin. The final remnants of my strength flicker like a candle in the tempest, and as the shadows whisper my name, I understand with a crushing weight, there is no escape, become one the darkness breathes, and I tremble. And then, a scream erupts among the shadows unlike any I have heard before, a wail of dread that shakes the foundations of my very being, spiraling down into the darkness, and suddenly it all stops. The boy is gone. No. I scream into the abyss. Please, no, and then I feel it, the chilling sensation of the heart as it begins to beat, deep and relentless, echoing my own and commanding the shadows to swirl around me like a storm, rising up, ready to consume me as the heartbeat crescendos, the shadows twist violently, and I know, in that surreal moment, that what lies ahead is a reality from which I might never return. The heartbeat reverberates with an intensity that exceeds the confines of my mind, rooting me to the ground beneath a swirling storm of darkness. My eyes dart about wildly, searching for the boy, hoping to see that familiar face again amid the chaos. With every pulse, the shadows morph, stretching and elongating, forming grotesque shapes that writhe in an unholy dance. I am surrounded by a cacophony of tortured souls, their damning cries a symphony of anguish. A fleeting thought flickers past, if I can't find him, maybe I can find a way to wake from this nightmare. Driven by desperation, I plunge forward through the labyrinth of shadows that swirl and twist in the air like smoke. The walls pulse in response, their surfaces undulating like the breath of a beast coiling around me. The heartbeat continues to thrum in my ears, and as I push through the shadows, whispers creep closer, speaking in tongues only decipherable through instinct. Join us, they hiss. Stay with us. The seduction grows stronger with each murmur, pulling at the very fabric of my being. Then, like a hand reaching from the void, I spot a figure amidst the swirling darkness. It stands untouched by the distortion, a beacon in the chaos. My heart leaps, but dread settles heavily in my chest as I recognize it boy again, but something is different this time. The smile has faded, replaced by an expression of sorrow so profound it echoes in my soul, a mirror reflecting my own despair. You knew this would happen, he breathes, the words trembling. You could have saved us, all of us. His gaze pierces through me, though I barely sustain the weight of shame upon his accusation. How? I choke, throat constricted by the mounting pressure of the shadows pressing in. What do you mean? I never wanted this, but you came, didn't you? You chose to follow the light. Each word he speaks sends cold fear rippling through me. Now, you must choose again. Join us or become one of us forever. My mind reels, and beneath my feet, I feel the ground tremble and give way, walls dislocating, chasms opening to consume all that I am. No! I scream, stumbling back, yet the shadows coil tighter around my throat, a noose of despair choking all reason. A roar crescendos overhead as the walls crack and fracture, the cave itself beginning to collapse under the strain of unseen forces. I throw a pleading look toward the child, a last flicker of hope urging me to fight against the encroaching dread. Please, help me, but in answer, the boy's form twists, and suddenly he is transformed. His face elongates and morphs, stretching into a grotesque mask of sorrow. I can see the shadows writhing beneath his skin, devouring him from the inside, each contortion stirring a deeper fear within my core. The laugh erupts unbidden from his lips, a sound filled with mockery amidst the chaos. We are not lost, we are pure. The cracks in the cavern's walls spit forth darkness, and alongside them, flicks of light begin to crawl forward, a scattered array of luminous figures gathering like moths to a flame, drawn toward the grotesque inflection of the boy's form. They swirl around me, voices rising, cascading a tide of bitter remembrance intertwined with the chilling promise of acceptance. Fleeing is futile. They chant, their collective grief morphing into spectral chains that coil around me. My heart races, but a dreadful paralysis courses through me. I can't fight. I can't escape. The oppressive shadow of the boy looms larger, taking form, a messenger of despair whose cruel smile bores into my psyche. You're just another vessel, he croons, darkness cascading off him like tendrils seeking to ensnare. Now you'll be forever part of us. Then from within the cacophony of whispers, I hear a sharp screamy mother's voice. The phrase "save me" pierces through my heart like a knife. It births a resolve deep in my soul, fueled by the love I thought lost. With every ounce of strength I possess, I shout back into the void, I will not be one of you. My determination ignites a spark, sending reverberations through the mournful brigade that encircles me. The shadows relinquish their grip, shuddering in discord, but at the same time the cavern grows alive, a monstrous beast that shakes the earth beneath my feet. You cannot defy us. The boy shrieks, his form twisting, contorting unrecognizably, fury emanating from him like the pulsating heartbeat of the cavern. As the walls close in, I glimpse a narrow venta sliver of the cavern's expanse leading outside. My heart races, instinct pulling me toward it. The visions of my mother and the boy dance before me, fragmented yet whispering of forgotten warmth and forgotten places. Do not go towards it, you will die. They scream in unison, yet I know if I reach for that light, I may just have a chance or the ultimate betrayal. That I plunge forward, bursting free from the shadow's clutch, chaos swirling behind me, a storm of despair unleashed. My lungs burn as the piercing air rises to meet me, but the boy's last word echoes as I dive through that crack, come back. You'll never escape. And as I breach the threshold, severing my ties to the darkness behind me, everything blares into an unsettling silence. Clarity washes over me, and I can sense I am free, but the horror still lingers, for the heartbeat endures, pulsing within me, and as I stand on the threshold of salvation, I know all too well what I have escaped may follow me still. An echo lingers in the air, and a chill sends shivers down my spine. I feel it then, the weight of a cycle yet to break, of a promise unfulfilled, and the echo of laughter in the dark. As I glance behind, shadows drip into my path anew, gathering strength. And that heartbeat, relentless and familiar, grows louder still. The air outside the cavern felt almost alive, heavy with the metallic scent of rain and something else, a deep, musty earthiness that stung at my senses. For a fleeting moment, I embraced the fleeting taste of freedom, but it was cut short. The dim light filtering through the trees cast long shadows that trembled as if animated by unseen hands. Just as I steadied myself, a frantic rustling erupted from the foliage, punctuated by a chilling imitation of the boy's laughter that made the fine hairs on the back of my neck rise. You think you've escaped? The voice echoed, as if it was carried by the wind itself, a haunting reminder that the shadows I thought I had left behind were far from finished with me. My heart sank. The shadows, no longer mere figments of my imagination, materialized, sweeping toward me like a rushing tide that I bolted, feet pounding against the ground as I navigated the dense underbrush. Each breath felt clawed from the depths of my being, heavy and ragged, while the pulse of the heartbeat thrummed beneath my ribs, begging for release. The world around me shifted violently, trees bending as if in agony, their bark splintering, and the ground seemed to writhe beneath me, a pulsating mass alive with darkness seeking to reclaim what had fled its grasp. You cannot flee your essence. A chorus of whispers trailed my steps, wrapping around me like an unbreakable chain. My mind raced, replaying the boy's face as it twisted in a Ghanaian embodiment of torment caught between realms. With my every stride, I sought solace in thoughts of my mother, of the warmth and comfort that came from being near her. I had to reach her, to free both my heart and my memories from the clutches of that wretched place. If I ran long enough, I could awaken from this nightmare, or so I desperately wished to believe, but the forest itself was shifting, contorting underfoot. I plunged into a clearing, the moonlight illuminating the ground, a stark contrast against the encroaching dread. However, as I looked closer, I realized the ground wasn't bare. It was littered with broken gravestones, some half sunken in the soil, their inscriptions smeared and unreadable. That I shuddered as I stepped past the stones, their worn surfaces seeming to watch with knowing eyes. In that moment, a wave of realization crashed over me. They weren't merely markers, they were the remnants of those who had roamed this land before me, their lives inexorably entwined with the boy and the shadows that had consumed them. The heartbeat inside me surged, it throbbed in sync with the restless spirits woven into the tapestry of the earth. As I began to traverse the clearing, I saw trees that had once lined the edges now bent away, revealing a macabre tableau. Figures moved among the shadows, phantoms taking shape, each face twisted with despair, mouths agape in silent screams. The boy's voice echoed once more, stronger this to me a garbled symphony crackling through the air. You've awakened them, you've brought them back. No. I stumbled backward, eyes wide, desperate to shield myself from the horror I had unleashed. From my peripheral vision, I saw something pulse, something like a bridge of darkness stretching across the clearing. It was all that remained intact, a spiral leading deep into the earth, teeming with cries and ringing echo, exhuming everything once lost. Haunting images began to play before me, people from different times reeling with torment, faces I recognized mingled with those I did not. A shadow stretched like a hand to claim me, fingers clawing for my throat, and a rush of wind swept me back. I turned to fight against the encroaching darkness, feeling a desperate feeling of dread pooling in my stomach. You will rue the day you turned from your kin. It howled, and among the shadows formed the boy once more, now distorted, eyes gleaming with rage. It is time for you to choose again. Join the lost or be consumed by them. The words sliced the air, punctuated by the slapping of phantom wings in the shadows. I felt myself faltering, my resolve crumbling under the weight of their sorrow, the chorus of weeping dragging me deeper into despair. But as I looked at the forms wafting, faces muzzled in hopelessness, something shifted within me. I had faced the darkness once, and something still remained untaped, a flicker of hope weaving through despair. In the depths of my heart, the love for my mother became a radiant flare, one that pushed back against the shadows. With a breath that resonated through my veins, I shouted, I choose them. I choose life. As the words ripped from my lips, the shadows recoiled, writhing as if stung. The boy's laughter echoed, echoing with madness, foolish, foolish girl. You can't choose life when you were born into death. Just then, the ground beneath me quaked violently, as if the very earth sought to upend my spirit. I stumbled, and it was then I noticed the gravestones shift, the earth breaking, grotesque forms clawing their way forth from the soil. The faces emerging were familiar, and not all of them were intent on harm. They held tragedy etched in their expressions, eyes glistening with unshed tears, and then the silence fractured, a deafening roar erupting into the air, blending flesh and shadow. Join us! They all clamored, rising like a tide, a horde of sorrowful souls bursting from the earth's betrayal, and at their core, the boy's echo swelled, feeding off their despair. Before I could turn to flee, I felt something tugging at my shirt, a small, cold hand, trembling and lost. I caught the boy's gaze, now sorrowful and begging. Save me, save us before it's too late. The chorus grew louder, the shadows swelling around the tremors of broken existences, tightening their grip. I was torn between two worlds, two realities, and with every ounce of strength in me, I understood the choice before me was not one I could make alone. Trapped on the precipice of salvation and surrender, I reached toward the boy, and then I screamed, but what came forth was not a cry for aid, but rather a raw and primal howl that fractured the shadows. It shattered their miasma, unveiling a whisper of light, a blinding epiphany that yanked me deeper into an unending abyss filled with echoes and dread. Come to me! The hollow voices cried, merging into a singular tumult, and as the shadows and the figures converged, the heartbeat within me quickened, promising something primal, something dark, something irrevocable. The shadows swirled closer, and I could already feel my fate entwining with theirs. In that moment, I understood their lament, their sorrow. Could I become one of them, yet overcome the very darkness I fled? The boy watched me, his eyes pleading, as the void behind blurred into a distortion of sound. Join us, he whispered, drawing ever closer, as the very air trembled with an unveiling truth. My choice would spiral into a chaos yet unknown, leaving me suspended in a haunting predicament where shadows and light could forever collide. As I stood in the heart of the clearing encircled by shadows, an unexpected calm washed over me, mingled with a furious dread. I froze, torn by the ethereal laughter that echoed from the boy's lips, a clear, haunting mirage of innocence now laced with a sinister edge. You truly believed you could leave, didn't you? He taunted, though a flicker of something deeper lingered in his gaze, fear, maybe, or recognition of a deeper bond forged in the chaos of loss. But you've awakened us, and now we will never let you go. The shadows swirled around him in an eager dance, gripping me with their cold resolve. Each of their forms glimmered, fading in and out of focus, faces woven with sorrow and anguish, begging to be recognized. My heart teetered on the precipice of despair, yet even in the suffocating dark, something remained, a nagging thought buried in the chaos. No. I screamed, the word lost in the cacophony. I can't join you. Then face the true darkness, the boy hissed, and suddenly the shadows surged forward, merging into a collective mass that rose like a tide, a hunger insatiable and desperate, a hunger I felt growing within me as I wrestled against their pull. I understood their sorrow, I felt it intertwining with my own fears, memories clamoring for attention and vengeance, but fighting it was like battling a current too powerful to resist. With desperation clutching my throat, I reached back, calling for my mother, her warmth an anchor against the cold, consuming dread. And the shadows seemed to waver for a moment, the whispers swirling, momentarily apprehensive. She cannot save you now, they replied in unison, mocking my futile hope, yet, within that turmoil, I exhaled slowly, allowing the echo of my memories to guide me. I thought of laughter, of sunlight warming my face, the embrace of safety. But the shadows were relentless, their fingers caressing my skin, a chill like death whispering sweet every promise of oblivion. Help me to help you, the boy's echo seeped back into my consciousness. But you must choose. His voice morphed, begging and imploring with a desperation that rendered my heart heavy. I found myself yearning for something beyond despair. Simultaneously, the light flickered within me, to banish the shadows, but to illuminate truth. The boy was trapped within a curse, a lingering pain tethered to a moment long past. I could feel it, a pulse, a yearning not just for release, but for understanding, for compassion. Not for revenge, but for healing. That I will not join this dark fate, I declared, summoning every inch of willpower. I stepped toward him, thrusting my hands outward. We can break this chain together. The shadows recoiled, howling in protest as a crack opened before me, the queries of the lost rising. I plunged forward into the void between worlds, my surroundings flickering with the memories of those lost and the boy's anguished visage. I encircled him with warmth, pulling him toward the light that I willed to bloom from my heart. Feel it, let it in. I urged, determination surging through me, and then the ground beneath us shattered like glass, sending tendrils of shadow reeling backward. A brilliant light burst forth, overcoming the creeping darkness. In that moment, his eyes widened, revealing fear mixed with a glimmer of hope. Names echoed in my mind, lost souls seeking solace, and I understood, they needed release too. You can be free, I spoke, locking eyes with him. Together, we can shatter it. You just have to believe, let me in. Help me. He cried out, but this time it rang with a vulnerability that pulled at the strings of my heart. The shadows hissed in rage, curling tighter, wrapping around our intertwined existence and trying to snuff out the light. You know not what you ask. They screamed, desperate to reclaim me, to pull us into eternal darkness. You will never win. I shouted amidst the chaos, feeling tears streak down my cheeks, intertwining with the adrenaline coursing through my veins. With a surge of urgency, I swept closer to the boy, embracing his specter, feeling a harmony resonate in our despair-twinned souls. Now. The shadows recoiled, snapping angrily as I held onto him, the heartbeat echoing through every inch of the void around us, for all of us. I screamed, and in that moment, as despair clashed against hope, I poured every ounce of love, every fragment of my essence into him, bringing forth the light. A shockwave erupted from my heart, blasting the darkness like a sun cutting through stormy clouds. The scream of shadows intertwined with the anguished cries of the lost as the darkness pulsed once, then twice and thrice until it shattered entirely, dispersing like dust in the wind. And then silence fell, profound and unyielding. As I came to, I believed it was over, but a shadow lingered just beyond my peripheral vision, drawing nearer. The boy stood, no longer a trapped soul but a glimmer of what had once been, flickering in the twilight. You are free now, he whispered, a hint of joy laced with sorrow still declared in his eyes. But something in my gut twisted as a darkness edged closer, threading through the fallen debris, "You must go." I urged him, pushing back the remnants of my fear. "You become one with me," he stated, his sweet smile morphing into something altogether sinister. In that chilling moment, I realized the truth. It may have been me that had liberated him, but when I embraced him, I had unwittingly shared my essence with the very shadows we fought against. Though he was free, I could feel it coiling and unfurling like a serpent around me, whispering of eternal servitude. "You will never escape," the shadows echoed creepily, rippling closer around me, reaching once more. How could I have believed I could vanquish darkness in the heart of shadows when I had become a part of it? "No," I mouthed in disbelief, feeling all light draining from my soul, the cycle never truly broken. As the boy faded into the night, laughter danced through the shadows and echoed through me. A chilling, unforgiving truth became my last realization. As the darkness settled firmly around my heart, it sensed my acceptance, and with that acceptance came the ultimate betrayal. I was not merely a prisoner, I had become the heir to an insidious legacy, and in this haunting silence, I understood the cruelest twist of all. Every whisper behind me, every shudder creeping within, echoed the chilling refrain, "Hadn't I always been the hunted?"